For me at the time as well, it wasn't about being the first person to do it. It was about, this is something that's just really cool that I was really psyched to do.
Hi and welcome to Passing Outdoors. My name's Davey Wright. Today I am with Katie Mackay, who is a climbing and mountaineering instructor, and she has done the Lake District Classic Rock Round in 24 hours. Yeah, I got it out. But we will talk about that, but before that, Katie, hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah? So we met a month or so ago now, at a Salewa event. Excuse me. And we talked about all sorts of things, climbing, and we had a few drinks as well.
We did.
Yeah. as Scottish like to do, or as we are known to do.
Yeah.
But I thought it'd be cool to get you on and chat about your path and your story of where you grew up and how you got into climbing. So I suppose begin with just a bit of an introduction to yourself.
So I grew up originally on the Isle of Bute. No climbing really there. Spent a lot of my time outside though. I was really into horse riding up until I was 17. In fact, I still am now really, but I just don't get to do it as much. And then I went to uni and sort of discovered climbing on a random uni climbing trip, which was like totally eye-opening. So
how did you get onto it? Was it in a club?
No, so my course was like an outdoor course. So not quite climbing specific, but we did start to do a little bit, and they basically had they did 2 weekends where they did trips, and it was part of the course, you had to do it. And we did the first weekend down in Lake District, where we just kind of got to touch rock for the first time and climb. And I think one of the days we went to Shepherd's Crag and just climbed some really easy routes on brown slabs, and then I went on to Little Chamonix for my first multi-pitch, and it was like, we walked off the top, it was with another mountaineering instructor called Al Halewood. We walked off the top talking about how you could do that as a job, and it totally blew my mind, and it was amazing. So
And that was it?
Yeah, that was it. I was totally hooked.
So taking it back to Isle of Bute, it's not got many features in terms of mountains or hills, and what would you spend your time doing there? Like obviously horse riding.
Yeah.
Is that something your family was into?
So I've got aunties and cousins that are. My mum and it was my gran actually got me into it. Neither of them actually ride, but there was a stables about a couple of minutes up the road from my gran's house. So I think she just, when I was old enough to get enrolled onto it, she put me onto like the Saturday club there, and then it just kind of escalated from that, and I was like hooked. There isn't very much to do when you live on an island like that, so I think as soon as you have a hobby that is something that you really like, you kind of just get
super into it.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
And we did also have like amazing beaches for horse riding and woodland and farmland, and it's quite a nice place to be because there's so much freedom with it.
Yeah, so you were able to sort of freely move around and do your own thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
I
think a lot of kids now lose that. I don't know what the island's like now, but certainly looking at Glasgow or anywhere else, I think we lose that kind of freedom.
Yeah, definitely.
Or maybe I was listening to some the other day, and it's maybe parents that are a bit scared about and maybe I fall into that bracket. I'm having a daughter, but of what might happen to them if we give them too long a leash.
Yeah, I think.
Growing up I had a very long leash because, I mean, it's a little bit different now, but it's not too far that you can get on an island really. And it was like, when the lights come home, and I had a beach on my doorstep, I had a forest behind us, we had a little hill, so there was a little hill, and we just did have a little bit more freedom then.
Do you have siblings?
No, just
no.
Me.
Cousins, you mentioned cousins, yeah. So so what made you go on to an outdoor course for sort of, I assume it's like higher education?
Yeah.
What made you move to do that?
I didn't actually apply to uni until really, really late. I wasn't really sure what to do. I wasn't that fussed on going to uni, and I think we had like an open day at the school, and they actually had like one of those portable climbing walls on wheels that they brought in, and I think I had one go and I was like, oh, this is really fun. And my guidance teacher, Mr. Phillips, literally dragged me into the library and wrote out he was like, there's a course for that, wrote out my personal statement and got it like submitted into UCAS before it was too late, I suppose, and I managed to get a place on the course. But even starting the course, I was still not sure really what I wanted to do. Like, one taster on a essentially plastic climbing wall probably wasn't quite enough to spark the want to climb. It was more, I don't think I really realised about how good a job it could be until I went outside.
And where was the university? Where was the course?
It was Glasgow University, but it was based in Ayr, so it was the SRUC campus.
Okay. And how long did that course last?
4 years.
Was there any other part of the kind of outdoors that they introduced you to that you thought might be your path, or was it just climbing and that's it?
What I did learn from that is not just from that, from previous experiences before, is that paddling is not my favourite thing in the world to do. And I don't mind really paddling now if it's somewhere nice, like a nice day, or if it's go climbing, like deep water solo and taking a stand-up paddleboard is not too bad. But I think if anything, it made me realise I'm not the biggest fan of paddling. But I'm actually quite hardy. I don't mind being out in the mountains. I think anything to do with the mountains was kind of...
Yeah, that was the draw.
Yeah.
And then that taster session or the weekend away that you had in the Lake District, straight after that, what was the next step? How far into your course were you, I suppose?
So I still had 2 years left, or at least a year left. And I didn't actually climb. I climbed inside, but I didn't climb outside again for quite a long time because I didn't know how to do it really. We'd done 2 weekends and I could remember some of the setups and things, but I didn't have any kit. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know anyone else who was really into it, because even the other people on the course weren't particularly psyched to go climbing. So I moved down to the lakes as soon as I finished uni, actually. I got a job just outside Penrith, last summer job. And
Was that an outdoor based job?
It was, it's at one of the outdoor centres that's along the A66.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd started sort of hill walking from that, but I still didn't have any climbing kit. I didn't really know what I was doing. So it wasn't until probably a year after that. So I was 22 when I started climbing for myself. And the first time I went out was actually down the road at Castle Crag, and didn't know the difference between the grades. My mate had kit and was like, oh, you've done it before. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember. Fully confident that I knew what I was doing, and didn't know the difference between a VDIF or a VS, which if anyone doesn't climb, there's a fairly significant difference in that. And just set up off this VS that was quite run out with no gear on it. I was like, I'm sure you're supposed to do something more than what I'm doing. I got to the top and thankfully, and just attached myself to everything possible because I was still so unsure. Managed to get somebody else up. It took us ages. The whole day we did one route.
Yeah. And looking back, I always laugh at it because I just had no clue. Nobody...
I think we've all had a day like that.
Yeah, it was
the climbing wall on a crag, haven't we?
No clue what I was doing, but we managed to make it work.
And thankfully after that I got friends who were going to do their mountaineering and climb instructor, so they were training to do it. So they took me out and showed me properly what to do, which made such a difference. It was just so hard to get the accessibility to...
Definitely. And I suppose there's a lot of initiatives that go on now, which we can talk about later, but how then from that day on the crag or from meeting your friends that are into doing their mountaineering instructor's course how long before you were there doing on the course?
So within the year of starting, of them taking me out, so it was like a year later that I did my rock climbing instructor. I was like, I mean, as soon as that happened, as soon as I went out that first time, I was out all the time, like every day, like obsessed after work, totally. As soon, even if I had to drive like an hour to get to Borrowdale, I was like in there trying to do something.
Even by yourself, or
I did a few times. I would go bouldering.
But I could generally find someone to come with me, which is quite good. I lucked out there. I'm also quite friendly, so I'll just try and find people. Like Facebook is amazing for finding, like, or was at the time, for finding random people that were just also psyched to get out. So,
yeah,
so
and
you got hooked after that, and then
I was just totally
constant.
Yeah, totally obsessed.
So what was it, do you think, that like looking back now, or reflecting on it now, or even at the time, what was it that got you psyched for it? What part of it? Climbing is...
Yeah, I don't know. I think
it was just having that, like, that freedom and ability that I can be in these places and I can do these things, and just I just found it really amazing and really cool, and the places it takes you to that you don't always, not everybody gets to go there, and it was just amazing. And and obviously like this, I like now, not so much at the time. I didn't really like trying too hard when I was first starting out, because I hadn't got the gear and stuff quite. I wasn't quite confident in it yet. But at the time, I just liked being able to get out and do these things and go to these places and try things that are new and exciting and beautiful, and sometimes wet and grotty and a bit like miserable, but I suppose that type 2 fun also came into it then.
Yeah, a bit of hardship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and push through it.
Yeah, and the more I got better at it, the more I started to like to try hard as well and push it a little bit.
And I suppose on the flip side of it, what, other than finding climbing partners and somebody to go with, what kind of barriers did you come up against? Any barriers anywhere?
Yeah, so like transport, especially when I was really younger, was like I didn't have a car at first, so transport to places was really hard. And
there are barriers, but because I'm quite outgoing, and I just kind of managed to push through and ignore the people that are maybe not as supportive.
Doubters.
Yeah, I've like generally try and keep people more supportive around me.
Yeah,
which helps, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think we've all come up against other people that are maybe. But yeah. So from there, you have done your rock climbing instructors?
Yeah, so I did my rock climbing instructor when I was 23, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So to do your mountaineering climbing instructor, it's your ML that you need. So I think I did that about 6 months later. But I'd kind of left that one because I wasn't sure if I was good enough, and then when I actually did it, I felt a bit like, oh, I should have done that sooner.
Really? What made you think?
I don't know. I think I just
like there's a lot of a big push on like different skills like the nav, and even on the rock climbing instructor there's as well, like you need to be able to climb a certain grade, and it was like, I think it's just people always asking, are you sure you're ready? Are you sure you're ready? And I was kind of like, oh, maybe I'm not then. But I probably was. I just had to be like, no, I am actually ready, and like not take a question of are you sure as
I don't think you are, because that's probably not what people are saying. They've probably actually just been like,
and who
actually do you ask the question?
In terms of support, you talked about having people around you. Who was did you have a mentor or somebody that you looked up to or supported you in that way to
I was really lucky. I had like quite a lot of people.
So like my friends that were doing their training, so they're Ben Westwood and Pete Sargent, they were great, because they would just, I'd literally they'd take me out all the time and I was just learning. And then we had like a technical advisor at the centre that I worked at the time called Tony Halliwell, who's an absolute legend. And he was just like super supportive, like any questions. And he did my I don't know what it's called now. He did my reference for my MCI. because you have to get someone to like refer you, make sure that you're actually good to go. But so he was great. Learned loads off of him. But then when I was once I'd done the training, I actually got back in touch with Al, who I had that first time out on Little Chamonix. I'd not spoken to him for years, because I didn't really know him actually, other than that trip. And so I got in touch with him after I'd done my training for my mountaineering and climbing instructor, and he then became my mentor going forward from that, which was amazing. It was literally I'd been on the phone to him so many times through training with just stupid questions. Oh, they're never stupid questions, but or like panicking about something really small, and he was really good. I like putting things in perspective, or explaining why you do something, or giving you like other ideas. He was really nice, and like just kind of, it was quite nice to just have that backup of ideas. Like if I wasn't sure about something but I thought it was right, it would be like that.
Yeah, that like took
that
that
sort of
like,
like,
say, yes,
yeah, or
you were right.
or I'd like question as to why I was thinking that before he would give me an answer. It was quite nice.
And I also had Jim Walton and Ross Cady were loads of help as well. So they, another two people who like really supported me, and I was on the phone to them a lot. Or Ross came in fact both of them, Ross and Jim, have both been out and shadowed some of my sessions, because I was just like, I need someone to watch me. Because a big thing for me was actually I could go out and take people out and we'd have a really lovely day and a really nice time, but as soon as someone was watching, it gets so scary. And that's like because I practiced so much and got them to like come and like put the pressure on, like be really scary. It sort of took that that element away from it, which was quite nice. But they were really great, like to get me to that stage where I thought I could do an assessment.
It sounds like you're quite studious in terms of you want to make sure that everything's right, and I suppose it should be like that. Is it self-critical?
Well, I think it is quite common in females as well, where we want to be really at that stage before we go for things. I don't think it's always a good thing. I think sometimes going for things before, like, because you're at the stage where you think you're actually good enough is probably beyond
yeah.
Where
especially for me, because if it's not perfect, it's
perfectionist.
Yeah,
it's unreal. So much stress and anxiety from it.
How do you cope then with the kind of stress and anxiety of that type of sort of being put through courses and being tested? How does that? How do you
it was awful.
Yeah.
I think the main thing for me was just getting people to put pressure on to practice, because and being like really happy at what I was doing, like being super confident that I could do it with my eyes shut, whatever I was doing. And like, I think once you're at that stage, everything becomes a wee bit easier, because even if you start making mistakes, you're going to be making, it's going to be so minor, because you're so well practiced in it that it's almost like your automatic thing to do. And that sounds really weird, because it's not like climbing mountaineering and climbing isn't really it's like it changes all the time, but you can have like plans in your head, and I don't know what to say. You can have like plans in your head and they'll change, but it's still sort of like just knowing that you've got that ability to do that, and knowing that I'm going to make a good decision here.
So knowing the basics and knowing them well.
Yeah, and you're like, and then being able to adapt them into the right spot is kind of...
Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned when I asked you about mentors and people you reached out to and things, there was a lot of male names there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a lack of female mentors in the sport?
Yeah.
In the industry?
So I did reach out to Sam Leary, but she's Wales based, and I'm Scotland and Lakes based, so it just didn't really work out. So I think there was definitely a lack of sort of mentors out there. I think it is obviously getting better. There's more people out there.
Yeah, it's just easier to find I suppose males who...
I suppose that's why I asked about barriers,
Yeah.
to see what you felt, if there were any barriers to females getting into the sport,
Yeah.
or getting into the industry, because I think we all know there's a lack, and I didn't know if that was maybe because I just wondered how you felt about that.
No,
I definitely think there is. I think I'm a little... I don't really have the... like, I've never in my life had that thing where I can't go to men in my life, so I've not had that issue, which is really useful. But I have still had moments where you get the stupid comments, it's so rare, but you do get them, or you're walking into a course and it's only males in the room, and like, I run the Women's Ready to Rocks for the BMC, and it's a total different vibe when you go on a course like that for us. People just, I think it's quite hard to sort of put into words. Not everybody can be as happy to shut someone down or to tell them that's not right. Like, not everybody's outgoing and confident and able to just be like, no, that's wrong. Like, some people are a bit more stepped back. Some people can't be in a group of males because of their religion or their beliefs. Some people just don't enjoy like being the only female in the room, or they feel pressure from it. And I think it's quite interesting because it's very rare that it's the other way round. But for example, like at the Women's Trad Festival, I have heard like male instructors being like, oh, I was a bit intimidated to come, and you're kind of like, yeah, it can be like that. It can be intimidating.
Yeah, the flip side is the same.
Yeah, and you get like some ridiculous comments sometimes.
And I know it can go both ways as well, but in an industry where the female are the minority, it's quite hard.
And well, from my perspective as a male, I think it looks like it's getting better.
Yeah.
I don't think we're anywhere near on lots of levels, not just sort of gender. I think for everything, for religion, and we talked earlier before we started about sort of inclusivity and diversity, and I don't think we're certainly not there yet. But I think the industry is trying, but I think there's still some people in the industry that aren't.
I think a lot of it isn't malicious either. So this is like, I don't have too many examples, but I have one that so when I was going for my mountaineering and climbing instructor, and I was like about to do the training, and I booked on, and I was like super excited. I was like, right, I'm gonna do it, I'm so excited. And I booked on, and I was working at the centre, and I was in my work with someone else who should probably have been doing his mountaineering and climbing instructor, but he hadn't signed himself up or anything. And in a room with 3 of us in it, the other person in the room was telling him how he should, you should be booking onto that. Nobody knew I'd already booked onto mine, but he was the one that was getting told. And it was like a whole conversation where I was not part of or brought into it. Like, I was sort of kept out of this conversation of this other person, and it wasn't malicious, it wasn't meant in any way at all. But at the same time, it was then suggested to me that I should be doing the rock climbing development instructor, which is another very good course, but it is a step down from the one that I was doing.
How does
and
that
I felt
make
a
you
wee
feel?
bit like there was no reason for me to be doing that course and for him to be doing the same. You know, it's kind of.
So there's still that. There's still the.
And it wasn't meant in a malicious way, but things like that happen where like that maybe there was some other reason that they didn't think that I could do that, but from what I could tell, it was like a male and a female, so we're going to tell this person that they should do this better course. Yeah, and you should do the lower down one, which is still a very good course and is very hard to do, but it did feel a wee bit like...
You felt you were ready for the MCI?
I'd already booked on, they just didn't know. Yeah.
Stuff them. Pass it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome.
We're here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, awesome. So, after you did your MCI, you is that then you ready to go and take clients out? Were you working for yourself, or were you working for an outdoor centre? Or?
Yeah, so I had been freelance for a while before that. So I'd kind of, for a few years before that, I'd been freelance, mostly ML and rock climb instructor work, like like single pitch sort of style stuff. And I'd also worked at a centre at the same time, and then from 2019 I'd just gone freelance. So at the time when I literally passed, and then so I'd always sort of worked for other people, and literally the day after I passed I set up my business, which was quite exciting, but also like not the right time of year because it was like October. So as soon as I passed I set up the business. So I was working for myself, which I could have done before, but I think it was just so much time and effort went into being a mountaineer and a climb instructor that once I had that time afterwards to not do anything, not think of anything, it gave me time to actually take the steps to set up a business, which was really nice.
So that was October 2019?
No, that was 2020.
That was 2020?
Yeah.
Oh, good timing.
Yeah.
How did then, well, obviously going into pandemic, that was sort of straight into that then, wasn't it? Is that date? My dates are all over the place. But
it was just after so it was just after the first one, so it was into the second sort of lockdown that we had, which was
difficult.
So I at the time had and in fact I still work for Blair Baddock, but I had a sort of temporary part-time contract with them running, which was really good because that helped get me through the pandemic. And then I also freelanced over that winter. I think I drove a bit for Amazon, which was quite good. And then I did some freelance climbing work in the sort of January, February time when you were, it might have been later than that. When you could get back out again.
Our dates and times are all over the place at the moment. I think
quite early in the year, but maybe not quite that early.
Treat it as a blur, that whole bit.
Yeah.
And you've obviously been involved in a lot of other kind of events and stuff, and you touched on the Women's Trad Festival.
Yeah.
How many times have you been there?
So the pandemic year was supposed to be my first time there, right. And obviously we didn't get to go, so I was quite sad about that. Mm. But so last year was my first year, and I went in as mentor, which was really good fun.
Yeah. So how is the Women's Trad Festival for you? What's your takeaways from it, or what's your?
It was really supportive. I had an absolute epic, because I locked my van keys in my van, with all my kit. So I got dressed in the morning, and then all my kit, like my helmet, harness, all the gear, ropes, everything was in the van, and I locked it in the van. I really did well to do that. And poor Rachel helped me try and phone people to get something sorted, but I was stuck that day with nothing. And it's such a nice community that everybody banded together, like the rest of the AMI members banded together and managed to get me kitted and enough stuff to be able to run the day. So it was like amazing. So helmet, rack, because the DMM stand was there as well. Helmet, harness, rack, ropes. They just kitted me up with everything that I was missing from the day, which in such a short space of time, because I really only had like a couple of hours before we had to go out. And it was like one of those moments where you're like, it's such a nice community.
This is a community, and
this is what it can do. Especially when you're having, that was a bad day for me, and to be able, just for them to be able to like pull all that together. As soon as we were out climbing, it was obviously fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I just thought that was really nice. And in hindsight, at the time, I was very stressed. But in hindsight, it was like such a nice thing to go into a community like that where you just make it work. And I think that's sort of everything's so chilled out and relaxed, and you just kind of, you go out for the day and you make something work. If the weather's a bit rubbish.
Yes, I don't think the weather was great.
The second day it was pretty, we were hiding in a cave, practicing setups and little rescue bits. The second day, and then we went outside to get some...
Get wet.
Yeah, to get some lunch and shop, I think, because they all got a discount.
Fair
So
enough.
they went in and I just showed them kit. So
Yeah.
we made the most of it.
Yeah.
But I think it is really nice because it's just a bit of a different vibe from when you go somewhere where it's mixed. And I enjoy both. I don't really have an issue jumping into a course full of males or anything. But there is a difference, and it's really nice to see. And some people just really come out their shell in that sort of supportive environment.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been. I would like to take my daughter at some point to it.
Yeah.
But from the kind of stories and even just the films and stuff that come out of it, you see people come out of their shell and climb stuff that they've. I think there's people arrive and they've never climbed before and they've come there themselves and they've just kind of slotted in, which is amazing.
And it's trad climbing as well.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not doing.
Sport or top roping or anything like that,
and like they're going straight into doing trad climbing, which
Yeah.
I think is really nice. It's really amazing, and all the leaders that are there, they're all like, so, like my job as a mentor is made so much easier because all leaders are just so lovely and knowledgeable and supportive, and I'm literally there just to help them out, which was amazing. It was super nice. This year will be a bit different because I'm running a workshop, but it was really nice being a mentor there.
Cool. So I suppose then, sort of going back to talking about mentorship, is that something that or have you been a mentor for somebody through the MCI or anything like that, or is that something you would like to do? Or?
Not yet. I think I would like to. I think I'd want a bit more time under my belt first, just to enjoy what I'm doing. Like I love teaching and I love introducing people to it, and I do have a friend who's like at some point she's going to do her MCI. She just needs to pull her finger out and go on with it, and I'll definitely help her out any way I can. But I think like officially being a mentor for someone, I just want a wee bit more time under my belt first. Yeah, but definitely would.
Could it be that thing where you're actually maybe ready? And
it probably is, yeah, as usual.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but then it's finding time as well. Like
yeah. Yeah. So what you have to scratch there, Mark's here, right? So in between all this work and mentoring and everything else, what do you do for yourself? Do you get time for that?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of climbing after work,
Yeah.
which isn't always the best because you're normally quite tired and falling off stuff you shouldn't be. But I spend most of my time climbing, which is not surprising, and like just being in the mountains. Like if I can get to a mountain crag, it's like my favourite, and I like exploring and things as well. So I'm just always trying to be outside, I think.
And is it taking you out of the UK? Have you been?
Yeah. So I've been before pre-pandemic. I'd actually just come back from like I say a year. It was quite bitty year of being away travelling. So I'd been working in the summer, and I'd been to Luxembourg and took an international school to the Kingdom of Eswatini, or Swaziland as some people know it. And then I came back, and then I was in Madagascar for a month, and then I came back and went travelling for myself. So I went to Georgia. Well, I actually went to Spain first, went climbing. Then I went to Georgia, which was amazing, and I would love to go back and explore the mountains a bit more. I actually went out, my uncle lives out there at the moment, and I don't think I quite realised how cool the mountains were. I'd never really heard of it, to be honest, and it was.
Yeah, so Georgia does look really nice. I think there's definitely places to explore, like Slovenia and places like that. There's a lot of mountains out there that I was never aware of. So yeah, there's definitely.
One of my friends was actually doing a trip to Georgia this summer, and I was like trying to work out if I could fit it in as well, but unfortunately, I've put myself up too much, and I also want to go to the Alps, so I had to kind of make sure that I had some time.
Yeah, there's not enough time. A lot of places to go, isn't there?
But yeah, I went to Georgia and then Sri Lanka for surfing, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then Thailand, went climbing, which is amazing. And then I went to Indonesia to see some family, because I've got some family in Indonesia.
Okay.
And then met up with my friends in the Philippines on the way back. which is nice. And then I came back into into the chaos. Actually, it wasn't quite then. It was COVID, but it wasn't quite lockdown for a couple of weeks.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was travelling around then as well.
I was climbing at Dunkeld when we were told we were getting locked down. I was like, oh, I need to go somewhere.
Yeah, I need to find somewhere to stay for a while.
Off the crag.
Was it after that then that you decided that you were going to look at the Lake District Classic Rock Ride?
So in lockdown, Will Burkett and Tom Randall were fighting it out for the round, and I was just like watching in like absolute awe. Like, this is incredible. With no aspirations that I could do it. Like, I thought it was impossible. I was like, this is amazing watching them. And like I obviously knew the routes, some of the routes, but I just didn't think that the whole thing was a possibility. I just, like, a pipe dream sort of thing. And then it was like a year later that the ladies from the Pinnacle Club did it in 3 days. And when they did it in 3 days, I was talking with my friend about it because we were both like, that's so cool. And she kind of put it in my head in the first place of, we could go and do it in a few days and see what it's like. And I was like, oh yeah, we don't actually need to, like, we could just go do it. We don't actually need to. And it sort of was like, I don't know why I had it in my head, you had to do it in 24 hours.
So for anybody that doesn't know, can you explain what the Lake District Classic Rock Round is? Yeah,
so it's Ken Wilson's book Classic Rock has a bunch of classic rock routes all around the UK, or ones that he thought were classic rock routes all around the UK. And there's a running round that you can do that's got 15 of those routes in it in the Lake District. So it links up all the routes of his that are in the Lake District. And you can do the run, you're supposed to do the run by foot. So basically link them all by foot with no support in between. And so I think it's about 34-ish miles, depending on what route you take, and 60 odd pitches of climbing. So there's 15 routes, but they're multi-pitch routes.
Okay.
I think they're all multi-pitch routes. So.
Okay. And what grade does that set up?
The hardest route is VS 4C, so very severe 4C. So, like fairly good grade to go at.
And how did you approach it then?
So at that point as well, we were like, oh, we could do this in a few days. So we actually pulled the map out, which is the one that's sitting over there, with the marker on it. So pulled the map out and had a look, and just sort of spotted where all the routes were on the map. And we'd just literally put like a pen dot where they were, and we were chatting about it. And I kind of went away and I kept looking at it, and looking at it, and I was like, it's not, it could go. And the more I looked at it, and the more, because I knew the routes, quite a lot of the routes already, so I was kind of like, all the routes that I knew are quite steady.
Had you done all the routes prior?
To it, yeah, but not at this point in time. I'd not quite done all of them. I hadn't done the 2 on Scafell. I hadn't done the 2 on Pillar. And and I hadn't done the route on Nape's Needle, which is quite funny because I think I'd done like so many other variations, but I hadn't actually done the Wasdale Crack. So I had to do that at some point. But so that was like the summer before, and it kind of just kept like chipping away at me to be like, oh, it maybe could go. So when we were kind of like debating it, my friend Tess wanted to go for this run, and I'm not really a runner. I
was going to say we've never mentioned running up till now, so this is
occasionally we'll like do like maybe a 5k, 10k, and then in the mountains I had done like little bits before, but not really anything big. So my friend Tess mapped out like an 8-mile loop from Langdale to Borrowdale for us to run, taking in Jack's Rake, so a little bit of a scramble, and we did that, and I felt fine on the run. I was like, oh, this is great. We got back to the car, and I was so ill, so ill, because I didn't know how to like fuel myself, or my legs were obviously fine for being in the mountains, but my body was like having
moving at pace like
yeah,
that.
having a meltdown because I had not eaten properly or drunk properly. So we were kind of like, I checked the pace and I was like, oh, well, the pace could go actually. It could go. So it kind of went from that, from being like, okay, I need to sort out my eating, which was a huge thing for me. It took me so long. I had so many days where I just was so ill for about 24 hours afterwards because I just didn't get it right. And I'd be dead confident, like, this is it, I've got it, I'm nailing it.
So
like food every 45 minutes, all that, and I'd just be so ill.
So what was the solution?
Tailwind.
Okay.
And so like, which is probably not good for you, but every bit of liquid that I drank had tailwind in it.
Right. And no food? Just
I had food as well. So
right.
I had a sandwich, like a brioche bun with some cheese in it. In fact, I had 2 brioche buns with cheese in it. And some gels, some goo gels. And some Haribo. And I did have like, oh no, we'd done like a trial run where I had a little bit more food in, but we found I just wasn't touching it. Yeah, I tried to eat a Mars bar at one point because we were like, just anything with sugar, like try out. And we'd done another run where that had worked really well, but when I was actually in the mountains running, I just couldn't. I had a really hard time just getting food inside me. So
I think it's I think nutrition for things like that, and you see ultra runners and they just don't.
it's so hard.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Anything that I've done of that extent, I've just really struggled.
Yeah, I
I
thought
still
it was
haven't got a
going to be
solution.
dead easy because you're like running and you're like, oh, I'll be hungry, and like the second it would touch my lips, I'd want to throw it back up.
Yeah, it's really
So-
difficult. And I suppose when you still need that strength. I think that's the difference between kind of ultra running and or running in mountains like that and climbing. It's a totally different discipline.
Yeah.
So you either train for one or the other. Well, that's any time I've done it. You either train for one or the other. But to mix it up like that is, can't imagine blows my mind a bit.
And I think as well I was quite like, maybe not quite rightly so, but I was quite chilled about the climbing. I was like, it was the running I was really stressed about because I'm not particularly fast. Because it's not a thing that I've done for very long. I'm sure if I continued to train it, I'd get faster. And I was so scared I'd get really ill because as soon as you start getting ill, if you're still running and it happens, it's really hard to bring it back. Which only happened to me when I was training. It happened once while I was still on the run, and I managed to somehow bring it back. But even for ages after that, I was not well. It was not good. So yeah, getting my nutrition right was really hard. And then I just kept running. I think once I had it in my head that it could go, I was like,
So on the day it was
let's
just
see.
head down, see what happens, and
Yeah.
drink your tailwind.
And trying to find yeah, exactly that. Actually, trying to find partner was quite hard as well because you got to find. I was debating about the solo attempt, but some things like try to run, and if I did start getting ill, it would have been scary. And if I got tired, and some of the routes are quite goey, so like Moscow Grooves has got like a move on it that's not particularly stable. Like you don't feel particularly stable on it, so it would have been quite scary. So there were some routes that were actually potential that we would have soloed on the day, but we decided not to because of the running thing. So like Murray's route is dead steady and really stable everywhere, and then the 3 at the end. So Gillicombe Buttress we down climbed it's got a couple of moves of severe in it, and the rest of it's sort of scrambly ground, so it makes it quite steady. Yeah. And
so this is towards the end, is it?
Yeah.
So is it
that's
dark? Is you back?
No, it wasn't at Gillicombe Buttress. It was dark for Little Chamonix, but it was still light at Black Crag. I had my head torch on my head in case it got dark for the run back down, but we were 20 minutes from bottom back to bottom, so we didn't need to worry about it. I think it was just, I'd climbed it so many times, it was like, and I'd set myself out quite a bit of time for it because it's quite long, and it was the fastest. Apart from Little Chamonix, I think it was the fastest route.
So you mentioned about getting a partner for it. How did that come about then?
So I had a couple of friends. So Jill, who was the friend who was talking about doing it over a few days, obviously she had first dibs if she wanted it, but she was definitely a few days. She didn't want to do it in a day. And then I had 2 other female friends who were pretty up for it, but trying to find time to get out and for them to do the routes and to get fit for running. It just didn't work out. Basically, I had it easy because I was here. I was in the lakes, so I could just do it. So I had another friend who was in the lakes, but she worked she doesn't work in the mountains, so it was harder for her to get to them and then get running and get fit. And being confident on all the routes as well was like, you want someone who is not going to fall off if you're going to climb the way we did. And then
Simul climbing?
Yeah. And then Arthur didn't actually want to do it. So I was for a bit just like, he was just not very psyched on it. He was just a bit like, oh, this is silly, what we're doing. And then I think I'd done a practice run with him where I'd run from, we'd never done simul climbing before, so we were like, oh, we'll practice on on Troutdale Pinnacle, because it's a route we know really well, so if it starts to go wrong we could just like change it back round into normal climbing. But it meant that we could practice on ground that we were really happy with, that was quite steady. So we did a run, we recce'd the run from Seafleet down to Troutdale Pinnacle, and then it was October, so by the time we'd done that it was like we'd left quite late, so we got to bottom of Troutdale Pinnacle in the dark with the head torches on for our first simul climbing experience, which was really funny. And the climbing felt really steady. We had a little speck of rain at one point that I was like, oh no, I don't really want to do this in the rain, but it didn't become anything, thankfully. And we just did the route, and I think after that Arthur was a bit more like, oh, that wasn't too bad, and I managed to persuade him to eventually do it. But honestly, even the week before, he wasn't keen to do it, and I was like, oh, like,
you trained for this. You wanted to happen.
I need someone that way. It was like, I just need someone, someone that you know is not going to fall off, that you're confident can do it, and knows the rope work a little bit.
So simul climbing, for anybody that doesn't know, what's simul climbing?
So you're moving together on the rock. So one of you leads up, and then you put some gear in the rock, so nuts or cams, and then you just keep climbing. And then the person at the bottom, as soon as that rope goes tight, they start following you. So you're both basically moving together up the rock.
But there's protection in between.
Yeah, so the person at the front puts in and the person at the back takes out. So there was a few times where Arthur just made sure he shouted before he took out to make sure I'd actually put something in, because most of the time we were about 15 metres apart. We tried to keep it about that. We could extend it a little bit, but it's much easier if you can talk to each other, and especially on the routes we were on, there was no need to be any further apart than that. It just made it faster if we were quite close.
So you got round it in
23 hours, 28 minutes.
Okay, and that puts you as the fastest female to have done.
Yeah, which was quite exciting.
Yeah,
it was a nice cherry on top, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And have you heard of anybody that's going to try and put you to the post?
I haven't, but
No.
Honestly, I think it's ridiculous that nobody. Well, it's not ridiculous. It's a hard thing to do, but I think that it shouldn't just be the men who are doing it. We should get in.
100%, yeah.
And I honestly, if any of the girls had been willing to do it with me, I'd have been all for that. It'd have been great fun. Because for me at the time as well, it wasn't about being the first person to do it. It was about, this is something that's just really cool that I was really psyched to do. And because we weren't really sure if anyone had done it before. I actually thought Anna had done it, Anna Taylor. Mm-hmm. But
that's who I was thinking about now. Who could you pair up to smash it?
I thought she'd done it with Leo Holden, but apparently they didn't. So I think they did.
I think they started it, but they came off
but the weather and stuff. So the weather, I don't know. I'm not really sure why they didn't do it.
So it's a shout out to Anna to you're going to pair up with Katie and you're going to smash the.
No, because she'll end up doing it all herself without the rope. But I bet she'll get a good time.
I think so. So have you any other big challenges on the horizon? Anything else you're looking at?
So nothing like set in stone, but I would like to do more big days out like that. It was just something to really focus on and get going. I think I was just so psyched about it, and I don't think I've shut up about it since, to be honest. If anyone's had spent any time
quite
with
rightly,
me,
I
I've
think
definitely popped it in a conversation wherever I can. So I don't have anything specifically set in stone or anything yet, but I'll hopefully do some other things at some point soon, although I don't know what exactly they'll be.
Fair enough. And as you're sitting here, all head to toe in Salewa gear, you are a Salewa athlete.
Yes.
In the UK. What sort of benefits is that giving you? What you?
Well, for the so I only joined the team this year at the start of the year, and Gus didn't actually know about my plan to do the rock climb to the point when I joined. So when I sprung that on him, he was honestly, because it was quite last minute, that I was like, I think I'm going to do this next week. And it was just great, just like making sure like I had the right kit, which made such a difference. Like having the right running shoes, like I had some Dynafit running shoes, which just were fantastic. I had a really hard time with kit before, actually, because I get quite cold. I'm not a warm runner. Some people are like stripping off, and I'm always cold.
And what month did you do it again?
We did it in April as well,
Okay.
so which isn't prime time for a rock round. But my thought process was the bracken would be shorter. There wouldn't be queues at routes such as Toffet Wall or basically anywhere in the Napes that there might be queues at. So it was kind of like a good weather window. The first 5 routes are quite steady and go in the dark. Going down Bracken Slab in the dark was a bit of an experience because we climbed up and down. So we went up the other 2 routes and came back down Bracken Slab. So hanging off the bracket for Bracken Slab in the dark, trying to find a foothold was quite funny. But they're really steady climbs, so we didn't really mind it being a bit darker as long as it was dry. It was super windy though. That was the other downside to do it in April. So basically I was probably wearing a bit more kit than most people are when they run. So I had a little down jacket, which from Salewa, which was honestly, when I first got it, I didn't think it was going to do the job, but it was fantastic. It was
the right kit.
it just had the right amount of like getting the sweat off, but still keeping the heat in. So yeah, they've like really support, and like even like personal support, like from Gus, like cheering us on through WhatsApp. And it was really, I had like a little WhatsApp group of very select people who knew what was going on, because I was a wee bit like intimidated about telling people that we were going to try it, just in case it
Put yourself out there again.
Yeah.
Maybe thinking you weren't ready, but actually were.
Yeah, maybe. And also like just people make silly comments, don't they? And I just wanted to like not have to think about it too much. So they were like just really good at like, you know, like championing it and cheering on. It was really nice.
Good.
They were super supportive.
Awesome.
It was really nice to have them in the background.
Awesome.
Out.
So, and is there any other kind of courses or anything that you're going to do to top up your MCI, or is it your MCI? Is that do you want to keep it there and keep going there, or is there anything further you want to do there?
At the moment, it's where I want to be, and it's where I wanted to be from first realising that I wanted to work in the outdoors. And I think at some point I might look into doing more winter stuff. But at the moment, I'm just going to enjoy personally doing it rather than instructing it. I really enjoy, I'm so psyched for rock climbing and teaching rock climbing or guiding people on cool routes, or teaching people. I really enjoy what I'm doing at the moment, and I don't want to just do a course for the sake of doing a course. So we like consistently have to do CPD in order to continue to work as we do, or to stay part of the AMI. So I'll still do courses and be training. In fact, and I do enjoy them actually quite a lot as well. Some of the courses you do are really fun. But I'm not at the moment looking to do any winter stuff or go any further down that road. But I'm sure it will change at some point. I'll decide that that's where I'm going.
Well, exactly. You've got the options
Yeah.
in the future. And in terms of any other trips, you got anything else planned that you're looking to go on?
Yeah, so I'm going to the Alps this summer with Becky Coles.
All right.
She's trying to do all the 4,000 metre peaks, so I'm going to come and support her for that. And then you met Matt, didn't you?
Yes,
So
Matt Palmer,
me and Matt are hopefully going to be going to Patagonia next year.
Nice.
That's on the cards.
Good. Salewa supported. Make sure that happens, Gus. Yeah.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure
I'm
it'll
sure
sort us out. Yeah. So yeah, that's the plans at the moment, and I do want to go some other places, but I've not got around to planning it yet. I feel like I've not been away. I'm going to Ireland as well actually for the Women's Rock Festival.
All right, cool.
Which I almost forgot because it's the Alps is like straight after it, but I'm very excited to go to Ireland. I've never climbed there before.
No, neither have I actually.
Yeah.
That'll be cool.
I've got one day working at the Rock Festival doing Learn to Lead, which will be really fun, and then I've managed to take like a week around it so that I've got time to actually climb
Oh, excellent.
and explore it. Yeah, because
Brilliant.
it looks amazing. The Alps walks will be obviously very amazing.
Yes, that'll be all right.
Yeah, you know. But
Yeah.
I'm still psyched for Ireland.
Yeah. And I suppose what would you say to other, anybody who wanted to get into sort of mountaineering instructor, but I suppose probably women and any sort of females that wanted to get into it, what would you say to them to do or how would you support them?
I think if it's something you're psyched to do and you want to do, don't let anyone ask that question of are you ready? Like if you think you're ready, you probably are. And like if you can, find other people who are supportive and talk to them and work out what you need. Just work it out and go for it, honestly. The worst that can happen is you have to do it again.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's not actually the end of the world. It's fine. Like just do it. I think.
No, I think you're right. And I think we need to be, the industry needs to be more inclusive and needs to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm sure eventually we'll get there. Well, it's been great chatting to you.
Yeah, you too.
And I'm glad we caught up eventually.
I know,
we've had a
right?
couple of failed attempts, but that's fine. That's just what happens. And we'll, and I'm sure in the future we'll catch up again.
Yeah, definitely.
And sit and have another chat. I
Alpine
hope so.
campus,
Yeah, I hope so.
It's happening 2023.
Yes, I've been told.
Yeah. We got to go ahead. Exciting.
Very exciting. It was good crack. So anybody that that wants to go to the Salewa Academy, I'm told there'll be a competition. Alpine campus. There'll be a competition again next year to go. From what I understand, and from meeting some of them afterwards, everybody really enjoyed it, and I think the instructors did as well, didn't they?
We had a great time.
Yeah.
What a great bunch. I
had a great time on the day that I was there, so definitely look out for that next year when it comes. But Katie, thank you. It's been great chatting to you, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we'll speak to you again.
Yeah.
That's been Passing Outdoors, and we'll catch you again next time.